Welcome to Red, White, and Blue. From the right, I'm Gary Polland.
And from the left, I'm David Jones.
Tonight we welcome two guests. Thomas Berg, Democratic candidate for the 262nd Criminal District Court in Harris County, and Denise Bradley, Republican candidate for the 262nd Criminal District Court of Harris County. But this is not a debate, David.
I hope not, because they'll eat us alive if it is. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Start off by telling us why you, Tom Berg, of all people, are running for a judge. I mean, you've been a successful lawyer. I mean, why would you want to preside over a court full of lawyers?
Well, because I've done it before. I've been a judge in the United States Army for 5 years in the reserve. I sit 1 week a month as a trial court judge. But my military career is coming to an end because I'm getting too old to do it. I want to continue judging. I enjoy it. And I want to give back to my community. This is my home, and I'm ready to serve.
What else have you done other than this 5 years as a judge, as far as your legal background?
As far as my legal background, I spent 27 years in the Federal Public Defender's Office. I was first assistant there for 19 years. I've tried probably 150 jury trials, mostly in federal court, but before that in state court, and done a lot of appellate work as well, one case in the Supreme Court. So I've been around the block.
It seems that. Denise Bradley, how about you give us your recitation of your background and why you want the job.
Well, Dave, I've been working in the criminal courts of Harris County for the last 24 years. I've actually been in the courts, both the misdemeanor courts and the felony district courts. I've tried the kinds of cases that a felony district court judge would handle. I've tried 12 death penalty cases, and I've tried every other kind of felony case that you can try as a prosecutor. So I am prepared to oversee those kinds of cases that the judges in Harris County hear on a regular basis.
I have an interesting dichotomy, Tom, because your primary experience as a defense lawyer, and Denise, your primary experience is as a prosecutor. I guess we'll ask you first, Denise. How do you, when you're running for a bench and you get on a bench, how do you balance your experience with then becoming essentially as a referee, among other things?
Well, I think the great thing about practicing law in the courts of Harris County is that as a prosecutor, you actually, I think, become better at looking at defensive issues. Because as you're preparing for trial, you look at the types of things that a defense attorney would be looking at. And, I've had the benefit of working under some great judges who've made great decisions and have been great role models for me.
How are the voters going to size up who to vote for in a judicial election? What should they be looking for, Tom?
Well,
Denise, both of you.
Well, they need to look for qualifications, which means they've got to go all the way down the ballot to look at us and study us, find out who's got experience, temperament, and the background to take the bench. Obviously, both of us are qualified candidates. It's going to be a tough decision for them to make.
So you think that there's anything other than partisanship, really, though, that determines where voters go down ballot, either of you? I mean, how many people do you think are actually going to scrutinize your credentials?
Well, I think that's the problem. I think Tom and I can both agree that, it's very difficult for the voters to be educated with as many races as there are, as many candidates as they have to vote for. All we can hope is that they actually go down the ballot and make a decision and educate themselves as best they can by watching shows like this.
Well, other than Gary putting out who he thinks is qualified, I mean, who else puts out information that voters can look to?
I think that you can do research on the individual. I think, for example, now a lot of the people who are running for judge have websites that list their credentials. That's one area. That's one place you can go. You can, if you want to find out about Denise Bradley, the candidate for the 262nd District Court, you can go to my website. You can look at my credentials, look at what other people are saying about me, and I think that helps to make a decision. And also just look at the various cases that I've handled and how I've handled them.
Tom,
I think the same might be true for Tom.
Tom, do you think that with 70-plus judges on the ballot that the ballot has really become really too big for the voters to really handle, and that we need to look at a new way to select our judges in Texas?
We've been needing to look at a new way to select judges in Texas for half a century. Realistically, voters have been exercising their ignorance in the selection of judges for a long time because they do not know who's running and they do not see significant differences among different candidates. Yes, we need to look at it. It ought not to be a partisan race, but as long as the people wanted a partisan race, then we have to run for these offices. So
why not follow the Bar Poll or the Houston Chronicle, who endorses people?
Well, I think the problem is, again, you're dealing with sort of maybe People who have agendas. I mean, I think that's the bottom line. And I think what we really want are judges who can be fair, who have the experience. And, I personally favor, a nonpartisan board that could review the candidates, make a decision as to who's the most qualified, and then have it maybe an appointment with the retention system. Something like that seems like it would better serve the citizens of Harris County.
So we're all in agreement that this is a bad system that we have for picking our judges.
Well, it's hard for the voters to get the information they need. I mean, think about if you took 5 minutes to learn about every candidate, you're talking about hours.
Yeah, you're talking about 140 different people running.
People are just not going to do it. So that's the problem with the system. And, of course, this is a race where I think it's fair to say both of you are well qualified. But it is also fair to say if you look down the ballot, there are other races where we got people running for judge who have never, Tom, ever handled a case in the court they're running in. Is that something you think should be allowed by the law of Texas for qualifications to run for judge?
Well, the qualifications to run for judge are bare bone. They don't even talk about whether you've got experience, just whether you've been licensed for a certain period of time. That is the law. Should it be more? Yeah.
We've had one of the most discredited criminal justice systems in the country here. In terms of national scrutiny of certain aspects of our decision-making in Harris County. How is it that you evaluate both the judgments of this criminal justice system and the administration of that justice system, both of you?
Well, I mean, from my standpoint, as a prosecutor, as a citizen, as someone who could have a family member facing criminal charges or a family member who's a victim of a crime, I want my judges to be applying the rules fairly. Well, first of all, I want them to know the law. I mean, that's a good start. Know what the law is. And then I want them to be fair across the board, regardless of who you are. Just be consistent in your decisions, whether it's the law that you're following or the sentence that you're handing down.
What about the reputation issue, Mr. Berg?
You mean the reputation of the judiciary in general?
Of the criminal justice system in Harris County.
Oh, the system?
Yeah.
Okay, separated from the judiciary, the entire system.
True. That's my question.
We've got some fundamental problems in the administration of justice in our county. They're long-standing problems. They predate a Republican administration. They go back a long time. We've got issues with jail overcrowding, with bail, with the timely processing of cases, so people who do not spend all their time in custody before they're ever adjudicated as guilty or innocent.
Why are thousands of people sitting in jail waiting for trial right now on a pretrial status in felony courts? Thousands.
Well, I think the judges frankly, I think the judges aren't working hard enough. I think you can go down to the courthouse in the afternoons and you can see a lot of the courts, especially with a lot of the new judges, not in trial. And, in order to move the dockets efficiently, you've got to have judges who are willing to work.
I absolutely agree. And I intend to. I mean, if we've got to work all day, something you learn in the Army, you work till you're done.
Well, people suggest that there is an imbalance of power in the relationships of the courthouses between prosecutor and what is largely at the felony level a court-appointed lawyer system. Do you agree with that? That there's an imbalance of resources and power that is contributing to this crowding that we have?
I think that is only one of the factors. Obviously, I spent 27 years in the federal public defender system. I'm an advocate for a public defender for Harris County because that remedies part of the imbalance, but part of it's systemic. Until you find a way to bring your cases to the judge in a more timely fashion, the fact that you provide a person a lawyer but you don't have a form to adjudicate the case doesn't help.
Well, isn't it a problem also, Tom, when there's a hiring freeze for the DA's office so they can't replace people and it slows down their ability to do what they have to do to move a case?
Well, yeah, we're resource constrained in a number of places. And it's going to require people to work harder and maybe work harder without necessarily getting more compensation to do it. They're going to have to be passionate about it.
The present court-appointed system is as good as the lawyers who are appointed. Isn't that right?
As good or as bad.
Okay. And likewise, public defender system, it would be as good or as bad as the people working in the public defender's office and the number of cases they had to handle.
Well, with that I would disagree because you can conduct a professionalization of your staff in a public defender system.
And you don't think that the private bar can do that?
The private bar has not done that. Even though we've got a Harris County Criminal Defense Lawyers Association that works towards that goal, It's not compulsory. If you're working on a public defender staff, it's part of your job to increase your professionalism.
To follow up on that, there are estimates that a full public defender system for Harris County could cost the county almost $100 million a year, especially under the concept being talked about, no controls on spending, no controls on anything. Where's that money come from?
Well, I don't buy your premise that it would cost $100 million a year. Obviously, it would be taxpayer money that's going to fund it no matter where it comes from. Can it be run more efficiently than a DA's office? Sure. The need for investigators and additional staff is not as great in a defender system as it is in a DA's office. We see that with the defender system that's used in the federal courts. It's much smaller than the U.S. Attorney's Office, but it's still real effective.
Ms. Bradley, you'll be one of those judges, if you're elected, who will be deciding this issue about public defender because, according to the law, as I understand it, you get to decide what type of representation you get in your courtroom. Do you have any problems with a public defender as far as just conceptually?
No, and I think the Republican judges are part of a group of judges who have already decided to implement a pilot program in Harris County just to see if the public defender system will work in Harris County. You know, I disagree with the idea that people don't get good representation in Harris County because, you know, frankly, they have the benefit of having some of the best lawyers in the country representing them on cases, on serious cases, lawyers that would cost them a lot of money if they hired them, you know, out in the free world, if you will. So, you know, I disagree with the idea that the lawyers that are being appointed do a subpar job. I think they do an excellent job. I would like to see it done more efficiently.
Well, the best result, as I understand it, from a criminal case is you either get it dismissed or at least you get probation for, you know, the individual involved if you don't win at trial. So how do you account for that in 1994 we had 40,000 people on probation, and today, with a larger county, we have 18,000 at a loss of some $6 million a year? Who is responsible now for not having more people on probation rather than eating up incarceration expenses at either the county jail or in the prison system? Who's responsible for that?
It's probably the political cost of running tough on crime. That you give less probation because you're concerned about re-election. That would be my guess. It is far more expensive to incarcerate than it is to rehabilitate. We all know that, but it doesn't get you elected to make that argument.
Are we failing?
Well, let me just say this. I think that's kind of a guess because, frankly, you know, the way the system is running now and the way that the dockets are being managed, a lot of people, the nonviolent offenders, the drug addicts, are being sent through the Harris County Jail. We're sending people to jail for 30 days at a time, and they're just recycling back through our system over and over and over again. You know, I'm fortunate enough to have been working in the STAR program for the last 2 years as a prosecutor.
Tell us a little bit what that is.
Okay, the STAR program is the Success Through Addiction Recovery program. It's something I'm proud to be a part of because we work at rehabilitating people who have drug addictions through probation and through the programs that this community offers for people who are addicted to drugs, who don't have a home life. We help them with, you know, getting established in the community, getting jobs, and getting off drugs. So, you know, I'm a big advocate of that program. I think that the result of I think the lack of probation or the fewer people on probation is a result of defense attorneys and their clients, frankly, wanting just to do 30 days because that's easy. That's a lot easier than being rehabilitated. And I think that's really kind of what's happened in Harris County.
Okay, Tom, one of the problems that people in Texas, judges have in Texas, is that you have to be a judge when you're elected, but then every 4 years you have to be a politician. Is there an inherent conflict between holding both those hats?
There is, because in order to be a politician and run a campaign, it costs money. And this is one of the conundrums that's especially aggravated in Harris County. In my campaign, I've made the conscious choice, and I may regret it, but I've made the conscious choice not to accept contributions from any lawyer that will appear in front of me. And we'll know later whether I've underfunded my campaign as a result of that.
I should withhold those funds, cancel the check, whatever?
You got it, because
okay.
I won't take it. But the problem has been, traditionally, lawyers have to solicit money from people who will support them. Generally, other lawyers, being the same lawyers who will then appear in front of them, maybe the same lawyers who will get court appointments from them, and all of a sudden you've got the people's money circulating amongst lawyers and judges, and it looks wrong, and sometimes it is wrong.
So, Ms. Bradley, I mean, you may be taking contributions from criminal lawyers, I would guess.
Criminal defense lawyers.
Does that mean we have a criminal lobby in the courthouse? who is lobbying for the bad guys?
No, and I mean I agree that it is a conundrum to have to run for office every 4 years for an office that is absolutely supposed to be a judge is supposed to be neutral and and have the appearance of being neutral, and then to require them to seek votes and to seek campaign money to run for election. I think it does put judges and lawyers who are running for judge in a difficult position.
Well, how about let me talk about it, but then how about the partisan election part of it? Is there a difference in Harris County between Republican judges and Democratic judges? We now have an experience because we had some Democratic judges for the first time in a long time elected 2 years ago in the Obama sweep. Is there a difference?
I think there is a difference. I mean, frankly, as a result of the last election, we've got judges who are abolishing the death penalty. We've got judges who hadn't ever practiced in the criminal courts, the very courts that they're presiding over, that they're having to make these important decisions in. And I think that is doing a disservice to the citizens of Harris County. And it's been hard for prosecutors to work in those courts from the standpoint of just getting the judges up and running and getting your cases tried. And I'm sure for defense attorneys as well.
So you have to do something about that party of yours that's running these incompetent people, Mr. Berg.
Well, I think both parties are guilty of putting up incompetent people. We don't need to go into all the people who got convicted last year who are on the bench on the Republican side of the House to know that there are problems in both. When you're selecting individuals, some of them are flawed. There's no doubt. Some of them lack experience. Some of them lack the temperament. When we have elected judges rather than merit selection of judges, this is what we get.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. You're running as a Democrat. Is there a Democratic platform that you can take to the voters and say, hey, as a result of electing a bunch of Democrats, folks, you're going to get the following?
You mean besides the slow economy, high unemployment, crisis in the Gulf, and things like that?
In the judicial system, not in the, this is not an Obama question.
Do you want to talk with me about Afghanistan, Iraq? Because I've been there, but I came back to be here.
And you've been in various jails, that we understand, over in the Middle East, and you can tell us how ours stack up.
But let me answer the first question first.
Right.
Let's go back. What is that first question again?
Is there a platform that you can take to the voters and say, folks, if you elect me and the rest of these Democrats, you're going to get A, B, and C?
There is a platform some of us have discussed that I can't speak for the entire slate of Democratic judges. Basically, what we're presenting there is diversity. We will look like the demographics of Harris County if elected. Some of us believe strongly in a public defender system and in reform of our bail system so that we've got more nonviolent offenders out and being productive rather than being locked up in jail. Yeah.
Okay,
but
Denise,
it's not the party's platform. It's the individual judges.
Let's talk about that, because Mike McSpadden, who you probably all respect, is a district judge who's been advocating for several years that low-level amounts of cocaine be a misdemeanor. Pat Likas, your boss, has said that a trace amount of cocaine that used to get somebody 20 years in prison is now a traffic ticket.
When David represented it.
Yeah. What's wrong with making adjustments to, as Tom is saying, to the bail schedule so we can have more people on the street hiring lawyers rather than sitting it out, and you being an advocate for having those folks at the low-level drug cases being somewhere else other than wasting away in jails and prisons?
Well, first of all, when we talk about the bail schedule, I think we have a very reasonable bail schedule set up right now. I think that there have been interesting ideas suggested that I think the judges should listen to, with ways to do kind of maybe the hybrid bonds or lower the bonds and then have that person monitored while they're at home, whether it be an ankle monitor or drug testing, and have that person on bond paying for those services so that it doesn't, drain, I guess, the county. That's one option. The other option, though, when you're talking about a drug case being like a traffic ticket or reducing it to a misdemeanor, that sort of thing, then treat it like a traffic ticket. They can come to court the next day and they can work that case out, I imagine. It still comes down to people getting before judges in a timely manner and being able to resolve their case. The other thing is, I think a lot of probationers, frankly, are sitting in jail. Those are the people I worry about, languishing jail, or these judges are sending people to drug treatment programs, and yet there's not a bed. So I've had moms call me, defendants' mothers call and say, my son's been sitting in jail for 90 days, because he tested positive for drugs, and he wants to go to a treatment program. They're sending him to a treatment program, but he's languishing away in jail, waiting to go to a treatment program, and I have a problem with that.
That's because the default position in Harris County has been that, you belong in jail. People who enter that system under, been arrested they belong in jail. It's been, for the last 30 years, the presumption of innocence is gone, correct?
I disagree with that, frankly. And I think, if you compare our bail schedule to other jurisdictions around the country, I don't think that you'd find the Harris County bail schedule to be disproportionate to any of the other jurisdictions. In fact, on, frankly, violent offenders, our bonds are oftentimes a lot lower, and people are surprised by how low the bonds are.
I personally have a problem with a bail schedule because it's a one-size-fits-all instead of an evaluation of the individual's likelihood of flight or danger to the community, which is the reason why you've got bail in the first place. That's why the state constitution provides for bail, is an assessment of the individual's risk of flight. It's not a schedule. It should be an individual evaluation by a magistrate and then release under the least restrictive conditions that are necessary to get the person back into court.
And in this county, we have what going on? Bondsmen running the bail schedule?
No, David.
Oh, no, I'm wondering.
That's not true.
Well, isn't it true that the higher the bonds, the more money the bondsmen get gets people out of jail?
It does assume that the majority of the people that are released on a bail bond, which means they have to pay a bail bondsman money that they will never see again. And we support an industry that plays into the political arena as well in support of judges. That's a problem. It's not what we've got in the federal system where bail is supervised by the court itself, where decisions on the amount of bail are decided by judges, and pretrial release supervises the individuals. Yeah, we have a pretrial release agency in Harris County, but it doesn't function.
The volume of cases handled by the federal courts compared to the Harris County courthouse and the DA's office and our judges is infinitesimal. There's no comparison, not even in the galaxy. So you're talking about a huge new commitment of spending of time and money by the county to fund, I guess, a free bond system. So that's just doesn't make any sense, just from my take. I don't know what Denise thinks.
Well, please speak up for the bondsman if you like.
First of all, you have to have some. Well, speak up for the bondsman. Frankly, I don't care at all about the bondsman. I do care about people being treated equally again. I think it comes down to that, and I think there has to be some sort of a schedule in place. At least it's a starting point as to setting an appropriate bond for the offense that the person's committed, the criminal history, and all those things that are taken into consideration with the bail schedule.
Those bonds can be reviewed, can they not?
Absolutely.
They're not in stone.
That's exactly right.
So as far as the management of a courtroom goes, the lawyers coming in, cases, whatnot, it's my impression that mostly our courts are run and managed for the benefit of the lawyers first, and then everybody else second. Correct? And what
Maybe for you.
Everybody who comes there 2 weeks, you've got to be back. Lawyers have to get rid of these cases. Is there any other way to manage a courtroom than the way they're doing it now down there? Or you like the way it's managed down there?
I'm there every day, and so I can honestly say that it shouldn't be just about the lawyers, obviously. The idea is to make sure that if you're accused of a crime, that you get to court in a timely manner, that your case isn't reset for 3 months down the road. Victims have a right to have their case heard in a timely manner, and I really don't think that should be as big an issue as it is. I really don't believe that the judges are working as hard as they should be. And, I can tell you as a prosecutor, I handle the serious cases, cases that take some time, capital murders, to get together and prepare for trial. But I've promised the victims on the cases that I handle that I'll try to have their case handled within a year. And that's the most serious case that the judges handle. And, of course, I'm only the prosecutor, so all I can do is just be ready, try to help the defense attorney get ready, frankly, and, kind of sometimes have to really push a judge to say, let's go to trial on this case.
Looks like Denise Bradley's going to run the courtroom and the lawyers.
Well, I guess the point is that, as a prosecutor, frankly, if you're ready to go to trial, that's the first step in the process. And if you let the defense attorney know, I'm ready to go to trial, you're going to have to, let's face it, if the defense attorney has an opportunity, has the choice, I think they'd probably prefer not to have their client go to trial, to be found guilty, possibly, the
only cases defense lawyers want to try normally are the ones they think they can
win. Right.
The ones that they want to dump, yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Those are the ones they give away.
Well, there's no surprise there.
Yeah, so I think, those get resolved pretty early usually. And
the other problem, of course, that I think you were alluding to is the idea of coming back every 2 weeks for a reset. which is tremendously chaotic for defendants who are out on bond, because that means they're going to miss work a couple of times a month in order to come to court. It's got the lawyers dancing, running court to court. There's got to be a better way to schedule docketing of cases and to let lawyers know also that at a certain point, resolution has to happen.
So you're looking forward to this being over November the 2nd?
I am.
And how about you? You love this campaigning, or you want it over with in a hurry?
I'm running to be a judge, not a politician and not a candidate. So I hope that it's over, and I'm a judge after November 2nd.
Well, I want to thank Denise Bradley and Tom Berg for being with us today. It was a fascinating 30 minutes.
It was, and you come back after November. Maybe we just do the same show again, and we'll see how it goes.
We can do a post-mortem on what happened. Right.
We could.
Exactly.
And you can view tonight's show along with a follow-up discussion by visiting us at HoustonPBS.org at the red, white, and blue icon at that site. So until next time, get informed and get active.